a magnet is? Touch your nose if you do. Magnets seem to have a strange power inside of them, don't they? The power attracts or pulls things toward the magnet, but not all things. Only things that are made out of certain metals. Our coins are made out of metal. The nickel is made out of a metal called, well, nickel, which is how it got its name. A penny is made out of copper, another kind of metal. This book has lots of interesting information about magnets. It's called What Magnets Can Do, and it was written by Alan Fowler. The author will tell us some of the metals that a magnet will pull or attract. And as I read, you can help me and we'll make a list of them. So I'm going to write the name of the metals, and if the magnet attracts the metal, we're going to write a check. Okay? All right, so here's how Alan Fowler decided to write this book, okay? So the book is all about magnets. So he starts out telling us what magnets are, and then he tells us what they're made of, okay? Then he starts to tell us what kind of things they pull toward them or what they attract. He writes about the shapes of magnets. We're going to learn that the two ends of magnets are called poles, just like on the Earth. We're going to find out about how a compass works. And we'll learn that people can make their own magnets and how they can use them. You're going to be surprised where all magnets are. They're everywhere. All of that is in just this one little book. Why are these nails sticking to this bar? We know already, don't we? We just talked about it. We talked about how some metals are attracted or pulled towards magnets. These nails must be made out of one of the metals that's attracted to a magnet. They aren't glued on. You'd expect them to fall down. They stick to the bar because the bar is a magnet. A magnet is a piece of metal that can attract another piece of metal. The two pieces stick to each other. I'm going to read this part again, okay? It's a really good definition of the word magnet. It says, a magnet is a piece of metal that can attract another piece of metal. So I want you to think. If you think what I'm about to say is true, I want you to hold up one finger. But if you think it's not, if you think the answer is no, you put up two fingers. Are you ready? Can a magnet be made out of wood? No, right? What about paper? Right, you can't, because it tells us right here that a magnet is a piece of metal that can attract another piece of metal. Most magnets are made of iron or steel. Some are cobalt or nickel, and the only metals a magnet attracts are iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel. So you can pick up nails or paper clips or pins with a magnet. They're made of magnetic metals. So most magnets are made out of what? The book says iron or steel, right? But our book mentions 4 types of metal. It mentions iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel. So let's write all 4 of those metals on our list to decide if a magnet attracts it or not. Alright, so there are 4 metals that it talks about magnets being made out of. Okay, the first one is iron. Okay, so I wrote the word iron. I'm going to put it in my chart right here. Iron. Okay, the next one, I'm going to add another one, is steel. And remember, those are the 2 that it said most magnets are made out of, iron and steel. Okay, so that's 4 metals we've talked about. Then they also talk about cobalt. It's another type of metal that they're made out of, or a metal that they talk about. And then the last one is nickel. Okay, I'm going to put it right here. Now, our book also tells us that these 4 what? Are they attracted or are they not attracted? They are, every single one of them. So I'm going to write, instead of a check mark, I'm going to do a plus mark because they are attracted. Iron is attracted to a magnet. Steel is attracted to a magnet. Cobalt is attracted to a magnet. And also, nickel is attracted to a magnet. All right, look at the picture that was on this page. You can see two children, right? And they're trying to pick up different objects with their magnets. Are their fingers sticking to the magnets? They're not, are they? Why? Because our fingers aren't made out of a metal that's attracted to magnet. Only metals are, and only the metals iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel, which our fingers are not made out of, right? Or you can place a magnet on your refrigerator door. It will stick there and hold notes. But a magnet won't pick up a wooden toothpick or a rubber ball or a plastic die. It won't stick to a plaster wall. There are no magnetic metals in these things. Magnets can be almost any shape. Some magnets are bars or discs, and some are even shaped like donuts. You might have seen a horseshoe magnet like this one. Do you think a magnet could ever be shaped like a ball? Think about it. Everything we've learned about magnets so far lets us know that it has to have two different sides. And does a ball or a sphere have sides? It doesn't. So it might be kind of hard for a magnet to be shaped like a ball, but maybe it could. All right, guys, we're going to stop there for today in this book, okay? And let's look back at our chart that we made that talked about how the author decided to write this book, the order that he decided to write it in, right? So we talked already about what metals that a magnet is made out of. Do you remember that? We talked about they were iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel, right? Shrink it down so it fits in our circle. So we have that. Okay, so we've done that part. And then we talk about what metals they attract. And it's the same ones, isn't it? Iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel. Those are the same things. They're made out of that metal and they attract that kind of metal. Okay? All right, we talked a little bit about the shapes that they can be. We've seen a horseshoe shape, haven't we? We were wondering if maybe it could be a sphere or a ball shape. We looked at that, okay? All right, now we've talked about the 4 different kinds of metals that a magnet will attract, okay? Oh, wrong way. This way. We talked about iron, steel, cobalt, and nickel, okay? Now, it doesn't talk about all the metals in the book, does it? There are a bunch of different kind of metals, like think about copper. Remember when we talked about a penny earlier? So I want to make a prediction. When I predict, I think about what I know, and then I try to figure out something that's going to happen. So I know that copper is a metal, but I also know that the author doesn't mention copper. So I'm going to predict that the magnet is not going to attract copper. Now, this is what a scientist does. Scientists predict what's going to happen, and then they do an experiment to see if their prediction's right. Well, we can't do an experiment all together because we're not all together, but what we can do is I'm going to let you predict whether or not you think a penny will stick to a magnet, and then after that, you'll watch a video and see if your prediction was right.